Hello, everybody. All right, welcome, warriors. Now we're going to look at dividing polynomials. You will learn how to divide polynomials using long division, and then you will probably decide that you don't like me much later. Anyways, let's look at this. First off, let's talk about some monomial division, all right? You're like, whatever, sir. So let's look at monomials. Oh, let's do a review here. So we did stuff like this where we divided before, and we subtracted the exponents. But you notice here, like we said, 5 over 15 is 1/3, and then we said 7 minus 4, and I'm going to slow this down for a second. 7 minus 4 was 3, 3 minus 5 was -2, and 2 minus 6 was -4. And then I said negative exponents went to the bottom, and positive exponents stay on top, and you get something like that. Okay? Well, that works when it's like a monomial divided by a monomial. And then we'll also discuss more later what's a polynomial more specifically. But what happens when you have something with plus and minus? Well, then you have to look into monomial division. And the way we do that is that we divide each term up top by the bottom term. Okay? So I'm going to split this up and say 6x to the 4th, y cubed, divided by 3xy. Then 12x to the 3rd, y squared, divided by 3xy. Then 18x to the squared, y, divided by 3xy. Now notice here, on all of these, I put the plus and minus where, it was plus and minus. Okay. There you go. All right, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. X to the 4th, so that's like saying x1, or x4 minus x1 is going to give me x cubed. And then y cubed minus y1 will give me y squared. And a lot of these, we're not going to end up with negative exponents on these, probably not. Anyways, 12 divided by 3 is 4. X cubed, 3 minus 1 is 2, x squared. 2 minus 1 is 1, so just y. And then 18 minus 3 is 6, or I'm sorry, 18 divided by 3. Ooh, good grief. 2 minus 1 is 1, and then there is no y, because y and y would cancel each other out. This is like saying y to the first and y to the first. 1 minus 1 is 0, so there's no y. All right, so there you go. Monomial division. Pretty easy, right? I know. I get this one, sir. Okay, let's do one more example on this. I'm going to let it write out, and then you're going to see how it's going to divide. I refuse to wait for the bell. Anyways, you're going to see how I'm going to divvy them up, and then we're going to kind of go into these a little bit here. Now, 20 divided by 4 is 5. Again, 4 minus 1 gives me 3, so C3. And 2 minus 1 is D1. And F would be gone, because 0 and 0, or 1 and 1 would give me 0. So I'm kind of writing this with those exponents of what they would have. And then I'll get rid of the ones I can. Minus 16 divided by 4 is 4. C0, D0, F. And then everything divided, well, if everything's the same, it just gives you a 1. But we're going to put here C0, D0. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and then all the others give you 0. Okay, when the ones that have zeros, just get rid of them. That's basically it. They're gone! And there you go. And that's it. Okay, that's the monomial division. You wish it was all of it. Ha, nah, nice try. Okay, so let's look at the next part. Long division. Ow, that probably didn't feel good. Okay, so what do we do with long division? Okay, long division, it really comes down to how well do you remember how to do long division from, say, elementary school? Because that's where this is going to come into effect. Okay, so we're going to do this. Now, something you might want to remember. Okay, you're going to look at this lead term with this lead term. That's all you're really doing. Okay, so what times this x will give you an x squared? Well, x times x, right? So x times x gives you x squared. X times -5 gives you -5x. Then, in division, you would always subtract, right? Well, subtract just means like add the opposite. So change the signs. Boom, boom. You change the signs. Now combine the terms. Well, the x squared should always cancel. Like the first one should always cancel out. Maybe these do or don't. Okay, 3 plus 5 is 8x. Okay, now what do you need to multiply a 1x by to get an 8x? Well, you need to multiply, what do you need to multiply 1 to get an 8? You need to get multiplied by 8. So 8 times 1 is 8x. 8 times -5 is -40. And oopsie, I pushed a little too fast. Okay, so, and then you have this right here. You're going to change the signs. and then subtract or combine. Let's say combine. And then you notice here that means there's nothing left, and there's nothing left to keep bringing down. So your answer is x plus 8 with a remainder of 0. Let's look at another one. I will try to up the difficulty level on these. I'm going to actually try to give you quite a few examples here, so kind of keep that in mind. All right, so I'm rewriting it. Notice how I'm always rewriting it. Okay, again, x times what will give you x squared, x. So x times x is x squared. X times a negative 3 is negative 3x. Change the sign. That gives me 10x, and bring down the 30, minus 30. 10 times 1 will give me a 10, so I need to put here a plus 10. Notice how the sign stays the same. That gives me 10x minus 30. 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. Then change the signs, and then I get another remainder of 0. Now, again, when you have questions on these, please go ahead and ask, and I will be more than happy to answer them. All right, so this one I'm going to do a little bit different. So what's a different way I can write division? Notice here this one says multiplying but by a negative 1 power. That is the same thing as dividing. So I'm just going to rewrite it as a divide. Always make sure that no matter how the book or how you might get these problems, that the variable is in the front. Okay, so I'm rewriting all these. Now, what times, if this is 3, and here has an exponent of 1, what do I need to multiply by to get a 3? I need to get an a squared. And I need to make it positive, so because this has to be positive when I first write it under it. Negative times a negative gives me positive a cubed. A squared times a1 is a cubed. Negative a squared times a positive 2 gives me negative 2a squared. Change the signs. Okay, so that's where I got that multiplication. I multiplied this times this. Now change the signs. And you get rid of the a cubes. 2 plus 2 is 4a squared. Bring down the 4a. And then say, okay, what do I need to multiply to get a 4 here? I've got to multiply by a negative 4, because I need, again, when I first initially write this, it needs to match. And it needs to be an a, negative 4a, because negative 4 times a negative 1 gives me positive 4. A times a gives me a squared. Then negative 4 times 2 gives me negative 8a. Change the signs, and I'll have 12a minus 9. Notice how I'm bringing down the 9. Multiply by negative 12 to get 12a minus 24. Combine or change the signs, and now you've got 15. So now my answer is negative a squared minus 4a minus 12 with a remainder. This is the remainder. So you're going to have to let me make sure you know this is the remainder of 15. See, sometimes you can have remainders. All right, so let's look at another problem. Same idea. I guess I didn't write the x. What happens if I put an x squared in there? Oh, no, sir. What are you trying to do to torment me? Not trying to torment, but okay, let's think about this. Again, I'm trying to look at the two lead terms, x squared and x cubed. What do I need to multiply by x squared to get an x cubed? I'll need to multiply by an x. Because, again, like if you say x times x squared, you get x cubed. Okay. Now, that number or that variable, whatever you're going to be putting, it needs to match over the one that you have. So in other words, I'm saying I'm not going to put this over x squared, I'm going to put it over x. Notice how, like if you look at these other examples, they line up. I keep everything lined up. X is all the way down. X is all the way down. See how that lines up. Numbers all the way down. So just kind of keep that in mind. I got to let that play a little bit. Okay, so just make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go over here and say x times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 5x is negative 5x squared. X times 6 is positive 6x. Change the sign. Boom, boom, boom. And now I've got the x cubes cancel out. 5 minus 2 is 3x squared. Negative 9 minus 6 is negative 15x. And then I bring down the 18. Then, okay, well, what do I need to multiply this by, the x squared by, to get 3x squared? I need to multiply by a 3. Okay, so multiply by 3, and I get that. And then change the signs. Boom, boom, and boom. It's more fun to go boom, boom, boom. And then everything cancels out, so my remainder is 0. And my answer was x plus 3. So you kind of get the idea of how these work. Here's one more example. Notice this one's x squared plus 1. There's no x in between. Ooh, no. Okay. So again, what do I need to do to get to this? Well, I do x squared times x, and I get x cubed. X times 1 gives me x, 1x. So notice it goes under the x. So notice how the x's all stay lined up. Change the sign. Boom, boom. Okay. The x cubes cancel out. These cancel out. But I still have open spaces here. So both of these are going to come down, because I would have been just bringing that one on the end down. What do I need to multiply by x squared? I need to multiply by negative 3. Multiply. And there you go. Change the signs. Remainder is 0. So we're going to practice these. But guys, you've got to make sure you're practicing. You can't be sitting there just clowning around. Then you're going to complain that you don't understand. So kind of keep that in mind. I'm trying to do everything I can to help you. You can do something to help yourself. Thank you so much for your time. Y'all take care.